Well, you ready to move on?
Absolutely. Looking forward to having JD back.
Well, that's right. From TMGcore, we're welcoming back JD Enright. And are you ready to go and take it away again, my friend, or not?
Absolutely, David
Y-
Scott. It's been a phenomenal day. I couldn't get away from the screen just watching all this incredible discussion. And I actually live in Frisco, and it is a lot like space these days.
Yes, it is. It sure is. It's amazing how it continues to grow. And a home, as a sports guy, home of your Dallas Cowboys, right?
Absolutely. That's where they practice, and every other team does.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody across the country go, oh, I hate the Cowboys.
We like them today.
We do. We like them today. Well, it's all yours, JD. Take it away. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Today, I've honored again, what a roster today, to be speaking and having a fireside chat with Dan Hart. Over the course of Dan Hart's career, he's served as the senior leadership roles across a wide range of aerospace programs, spanning from human spaceflight to satellite development, launch, and missile defense, and running through all phases of the aerospace product lifecycle, from research and development through design, production, and spaceflight operations. Wow. Dan currently serves as the president and CEO of Virgin Orbit, which is a thing that they're doing it's not Virgin Galactic, which is the human side of thing. It's Virgin Orbit with small satellites, which is extremely exciting venture. So he currently serves as their president and CEO of Virgin Orbit, again, which is Richard Branson's pioneering commercial space firm, which launches the small satellites into space from a rocket carried underneath the wing of a modified Boeing 747. Imagine that. And the first ones in the world to do that, actually. Dan joined Virgin Orbit after more than 3 decades of aerospace leadership at the Boeing Company, where he most recently served as Vice President of Government Satellite Systems. Dan holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in physics from the State University of New York at Albany and attended the Harvard Business School Advanced Management Program. Welcome, Dan Hart. That's quite the introduction.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Great to see you again. We had a nice chat the other day, so I'm glad that we got a chance to connect. What a great venue it's been today, and wanted to jump into it. I've got a list of fantastic questions here I'd like to pose to you, and I also believe we have a video that we're going to show to kick things off.
I thought it would be useful.
Yeah.
Team Rocket, RD on RocketNet, looking for confirmation your system is still go. Thermal.
Thermality's go.
AVI, go. Flight software.
Flight software's go.
GNC.
GNC's go.
Payload.
Payload's go.
S1 prop.
Go.
S2 prop.
S2 prop is go.
Systems.
Go.
Copy all, thanks.
LCC on control room, we are go for takeoff.
Copy that, C.
LDCE on control room, we are go for terminal count.
Release. Release confirmed.
Newton 3 startup confirmed. Stage 1 burn nominal.
S-band lock for Baja TM, data is confirmed.
Mexico Alpha achieved. Stage 1 trajectory nominal.
Music to my ears, thanks.
Monroe orbit base. Stage 1 burn is nominal, passing 120,000 feet.
Newton 3 shutdown confirmed.
Staying set, brake fire's broken.
Newton 4 startup complete. S2 prop, stage 2 burn is nominal.
Downrange, O'Higgins, locked.
AOS and frame lock at Mauritius.
LD on control room. For those who haven't heard, we have a confirmation of all 7 satellites deployed.
All systems are good. They're coming back for that.
Copy, stepping up. It was a great day to go to space with everybody.
LC2 Cosmic Row is on the ground.
Welcome back, Cosmic Row.
Well, there
Okay.
you go.
I've got to know who your content provider is. That was awesome. I got
Well,
to.
thank you. Thought we'd share what a day at the office was like.
Yeah. I hate you right now. That's a day at the office. That's fantastic. Well, welcome. It's great to have you, Dan. Good to see you again. So we're here to talk about what's going on at Virgin Orbit and the exciting things. What a crazy thing to launch a liquid rocket off an airplane, 747, Boeing. What can you tell us about that whole journey?
Well, I mean, look, this is something that has been in play and in concept for decades. We started out here, right? X1, X15 was this technology. Use the muscle and flexibility of an airplane, get altitude, simplify the job that the high price, expensive, complex thing has to do, and simplify that. And if you look at the decades, I mean, there have been lots of programs trying to do this. We chose an airplane that just has an incredible history. So, we use the muscle of a 747. It's probably the lightest 747 flying. We took out all the seats and all the overhead compartments and so forth. We're able to get to 35,000 feet, the better part of Mach 1, 2/3 of the way through the atmosphere before the rocket has to lift a finger. And that's the logic. Not only does it give us efficiency for the rocket, allow us to simplify it and lower the cost of the rocket and improve the reliability, because simple means reliable in our business. But it also gives us incredible flexibility. So, I mean, we transformed a piece of cement in Mojave in Southern California. And one day in January, it became a spaceport. And the first time we've ever flown from Southern California to orbit. And so there's, our green light to go came from the airport tower, not from the launch range. And it's something that we can do. We can talk about, the flexibility, the mobility of the system really opens up new opportunities and new markets.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's a dynamic shift. We talk a lot about innovation in this industry. We talk about speed to market. We talk about accessibility to the technology. We talk about costs. We talk about efficiencies. We talk about sustainability is a big topic of discussion all the way up into DC, up on the Hill. Is space in all of the innovation, is it sustainable? And what's the impact of the environment? And I know, when we had our conversation the other day, I walked away with a whole new appreciation of what's being done, in particular by you and the Virgin Orbit folks. And so, you talk about, so you and I, we chatted a little bit, and we talked about, the rocket folks, and, there's people in the space. And you think about the flexibility that you guys have created through this cutting edge innovation. You've created like the first decentralized distributed satellite launch platform in the history of the world. I mean, when you think about what's happening today, you go on the East Coast. I had an earlier conversation today. Now it's heavier payloads, of course, and they're sending stuff to planets. Understand there are different business cases. However, when I spoke with Tori Bruno of the United Launch Alliance, they specifically choose West Coast or East Coast for a number of reasons, which I thought was fascinating. I didn't know much about. And now you're taking it to a different level for small type satellites, which are going into LEO and in those areas. Can you talk about the flexibility there and how you guys came up with that?
Yeah, and let me touch on the sustainability aspect a little bit as well, and I'll touch on it terrestrially. There's obviously the discussion that I just heard between Marty and Wayne was on orbit sustainability, which is critical as well. But from the Earth point of view, we have a tradition of putting rockets in the middle of wildlife preserves and blasting off. It's the way the industry grew up. I mean, rockets need to be out from populated areas, and it made perfect sense. We have a system where we can reuse a 747 and reuse a runway. Leaving the Earth, we put out 90% less soot and smoke in the surrounding area and 94% less acoustic energy. So instead of disrupting a wildlife preserve, we are using an airport, and we can turn any airport into a spaceport. And that's the other topic that you kind of brought up. You know, there are almost 80 space agencies across the world right now. And every single one of them is chartered with producing and providing and engaging in a space economy that's growing. And only a handful, a little over a handful of them have launch capability. And I mean, launch, you know, if you don't have access to go to space, you can only get so far. And so there's a huge difference, and frankly, an opportunity to democratize space, to establish new bilateral relations with our allies so that we can share the load in going to space. And so there's a lot of excitement there. And then when you go to national security, there's a real need to build resilience into our space on orbit architectures and our space launch capability. Because currently, I mean, if you think from a military point of view, what you usually don't want to be is centralized or predictable. Well, that's what we are, right? I mean, we're at Cape Canaveral.
Absolutely.
We're at Vandenberg. And honestly, you know, you don't even need human mischief or interaction. I mean, if there's a hurricane off Cape Canaveral, everyone in the world knows that the United States is not launching that week. I mean, so there's an issue as we progress forward of how do we fix that. And we have a unique capability because not only can we take off from anywhere, but we can launch from anywhere. I mean, a rocket can go up on any day from any place on this earth. And that is a unique new capability. So we're having an incredible discussion with lots of different countries who want to engage in launch, who from a civil space point of view, from a commercial point of view, as well as from a MOD to Space Force or DOD collaboration point of view. You know, we actually, not to drown everybody in videos, but we have a little video where I thought might be useful to sort of see what others are kind of saying about us. And if you want to play that.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that, Dan. Yeah, let's watch that.
There are about 80 different space agencies across the world right now, and only a little over a handful of them have space launch capability. We can give them a sovereign launch capability from their sovereign territory anywhere in the globe. And for the national security world, which is right now concentrated in their launch capability at Cape Canaveral and Vandenberg Air Force Base, we can provide distributed launch, resilience of launch, so that no adversary will ever be able to deny us ability to get access to space.
Hi folks, it's fantastic to be here at Newquay Spaceport at the very beginning of our G7 summit, and you can see Launcher 1 behind me, and we're hoping very much this will be the kind of launcher that will be used by Virgin to send UK payloads, UK satellites up into space and really put the Newquay Spaceport on the map.
It gives me a great pleasure and a privilege to read a letter from the President of the Republic of Poland, Mr. Andrzej Duda. Thank you for the invitation to participate in the ceremonial launch of the rocket Launcher 1, which will launch into orbit 2 satellites entirely built by the Polish company Sat Revolution. It is of utmost importance that we work together to promote Polish businesses abroad.
For the launch, we selected Virgin Orbit. This makes access to space possible from any airfield where a 747 can take off.
Como também poderemos nos valer de uma outra modalidade de lançamento, que é aquele a partir de avião. Então, nesse caso, o foguete ele é carregado ou sobre a barriga ou sobre a asa de um avião. Ele decola do aeroporto, né? Em Alcântara tem um aeroporto com uma pista maior, inclusive, que a pista de São Luís. E depois, quando ele atinge lá uma altitude de cerca de 10, 12 quilômetros, ele libera o foguete e o foguete prossegue com a missão de lançamento.
As I mentioned up front, responsible launch is going to be really important to us. It's important to us today, and we need to get better. We're taking an enterprise approach to this. It's I think we've got multiple companies that are on contract with us that for responsive launch capabilities. We're working the policies, the processes, the range part of this, the satellite interfaces so we can do that work responsibly as well. And so we're taking a whole enterprise approach to this, but I see it being important to us today and even more important to us as we go forward.
So in this country, the United States of America, we've had a gap in our ability to launch small payloads to specific orbits. And that's really what prompted me and others in the House to push forward on the Venture Class Launch Services program. We wanted to be able to launch small payloads to very specific orbits at a lower cost than we normally could. And we wanted to make it such that it was feasible from a cost perspective to get these payloads into specific orbits.
All right, and that's the last video, I promise.
Well, I like videos, so you don't have to worry about that. So what a great, I mean, this is a global endeavor, clearly, and you've got so much momentum going on there. A couple of themes came out of that. One was, the launch anywhere. One of the things that TMGcore, that we developed here at TMGcore, is high performance computing for decentralized distributed points of presence networks for edge-based computing. You guys have taken the space launch idea to that level. I mean, that's incredible. Because that's where we see the future going, is having high performance computing anywhere you need it, no matter what the weather is, no matter where the demographic, political, it doesn't matter. You can have that when you need it. And so, from a national security perspective, that's key. So one of the other things that came out of that was cost. So if I recall, you're launching, in the days, $100 million, $200 billion for a satellite, $100, $200 million for a rocket, and then all the infrastructure, 100 million, it's $500 million to $1 billion thereabouts to be able to afford to put satellites in space and participate in that industry. What are you talking about here from a cost perspective?
Well, this is really the game changer. The technology that has allowed satellites that are small and flying in low Earth orbit in formations and constellations to do the kind of work that we've always relied on large, expensive satellites, usually in GEO or sometimes in low Earth orbit or MEO, to do. And so, and it's not exactly the same. And, there's a bit of a religious argument, I think, at times between big satellites and little satellites. The answer is going to be, both are very, very valuable. I built a lot of big satellites, but this whole change is amazing, because what it's allowed is for somebody who has $50 million or $100 million to put up and start to operate in space and start to collect revenue, or if you're a civil space agency, to start to collect really incredible science data. JPL years ago now, when they were landing InSight on Mars, they had a gap in communication. They put up the Marco spacecraft, 2 little satellites that cost like $20 million to solve a problem of communication on Mars. I was talking with Larry James at one point, 20 years ago, that would have been like a $500 million problem to solve. And so this is a game changer. And what's happening around the world is satellite companies are popping up, whether it's new commercial applications or manufacturing. University students, juniors in college have built a satellite as their graduation project. If I had gone to my advisor saying, I'd like to build and launch a satellite, I would have gotten a pat on the head, and get out of my office. So anyway, it is a game changer. It's a democratization of space that's going on across the globe to where people have access. And what's going to happen economically, as well as in government realms, is space, in a lot of ways, is becoming a regional points of interest. That there is the cost point is low enough to where if a region has a specific problem to solve, they can put up space assets to solve them. And governments and regions want to also have their own sovereign capability. And so our launch system, which can put up dedicated satellites in specific orbits so they hover over specific regions, or pass over them, I should say. Low Earth orbit, you don't hover, is very exciting. I mean, it's really where the space economy is going. It's where government space is going. It's great to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, what a wonderful business. The idea that you can do for tens of millions of dollars what used to cost, hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, is a game changer. I'd love to put one of our high performance computing boxes on your Virgin Orbit 747. That'd be interesting to see. We're doing some fun stuff like that. Now, with respect to the next mission, so you guys just launched recently. Wild success. Congratulations, by the way, to you and the entire Virgin Orbit team. Huge. I mean, they've been trying to do this since the 50s, as I understand it. And now, so what's next for Virgin Orbit?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, I couldn't be prouder of this team. I mean, pulling across the divide from aspirational, aerospace and launch to operational is a big divide, and it takes a heck of a lot of perseverance and drive. And so I couldn't be prouder of an incredible team that got us there. So we launched twice this year so far. We had our mission with NASA in January. You saw Jim Bridenstine in an interview just before that mission on that video. And then we launched in June, where we put up DOD, the first satellite for the Royal Netherlands Air Force, and the Polish satellites you heard about. We'll be launching before the end of the year again. And so as I speak, the rocket is being buttoned up in the factory, and we're doing some final procedure updates for the launch team, and we're in the zone for next launch. That'll be 3 this year. Next year, we're targeting 6. And so we're ramping up the factory. It's an exciting time. It's also sort of the next step is getting into a higher rate of production. So there are 5 rockets in flow right now in the factory. The factory is fully fleshed out. So we've got our processes in place, and we're in the process of refining those and duplicating lines and things like that. And then the year after that, we want to more than double the launch rate again. And so we're in that ramp area. At the same time, we're partnering with some of our customers to help them provide services in space, in IoT, in Earth observation. And so, Richard Branson is always leaning forward and thinking. It's one of the best things about my job is I've got both the drive to launch, as well as every once in a while, Richard calls up with an idea. Can we do this? And those usually make my day. So anyway, we're pushing forward in all those areas. Really want to make the system available, fully utilized through commercial, civil, national security, both in the US and across our allies.
Dan, the last time we spoke, you made a point of talking about the responsibility that you have as an organization to participate in this innovation and this future economy. And you made a point of saying, hey, it needs to be sustainable, and there needs to be also, and you mentioned some of those things, the fact that it's 90% less carbon emissions and so 97% acoustic energy, which, by the way, I loved acoustic energy being used instead of noise. The amount of noise on the liftoff, scaring all the birds and the people, whatever, that's boom. But in addition to that, I suspect, as things get cheaper, and which is a good thing, and more people have access to this technology, I suspect there's also a need for some corporate citizenship where you're working together. I had my earlier discussion with Tori Bruno was about having that responsibility, coordinating with your fellow colleagues in this space. I mean, there's only so much space in that low orbit area, right? And that's where you're focused at. So it's making sure that coordination, there's good responsibility around that. And so where do you see that going in the role that you in particular play at Virgin Orbit to hold on to that sustainability and that coordination to make sure that everything's working properly?
Well, I mean, I think it's sort of threefold. One is terrestrially, we have a factory, we have a launch activity. We're looking at, for instance, sustainable fuels for the airplane, and we'll be moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Then, we are evaluating potentially reusability of the next stage, of the first stage of the rocket.
Oh, wow.
And we're still in the cost trade. It's a very simple rocket, so we have to trade off production versus refurbishment and so forth, but that may be something we do from a sustainability point of view. And then it's getting into and out of orbit. Our second stage goes into orbit, and we are working on technologies, whether it's tethers or other approaches, to make sure we're up there as short as possible, as well as regulations and adherence to things like passivating stages and things like that, so you don't have bad things happen and creating a mess in space. And then the last part, and I think Marty brought this up, but we're working with companies developing technologies to retrieve debris and get stages and satellites out of orbit. And our system, which is dedicated and has a very, very high degree of orbital specificity. I mean, if there's something to go get, we can get a device up there to go get it. And so probably that's the last part, which is garbage collection, which I think will be, once governments step up a little bit, I think garbage collection, retrieval, and cleaning will be an important part of our space our journey, our sustainability.
And that's another opportunity for creating jobs and driving the economy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then there's the other sort of corporate citizenship as well. I mean, a year ago we were wrapping up, I think, our 600th ventilator. When COVID hit, and we transformed half of our factory into a high rate production.
I heard about
activity on ventilators. We do a heck of a lot of STEM work with inner city schools and Boys and Girls Club and things. So I think, look, it's those kinds of activities, whether it's sustainability, whether it's being a good citizen in the community, is good for the company, good for the community, makes you want to go to work every day.
Amen to that. Absolutely. So, I'd love to be able to, have my own satellite, and it sounds like we're getting close to, not yet, but almost there, for sure. So, if you could project 10 years from now, where's Dan Hart and Virgin Orbit 10 years from now?
10 years from now, we want to be, launching, every week or so, for one purpose or another. We talked about a lot of the various aspects. Mm-hmm. We want to be working with our satellite community and providing data analytics and data products from satellites. We have a community that we work with in Virgin, with our other investor, Mubadala, where there are companies that need data from satellites. So we want to help them get those. And we want to be working on interplanetary work, sustaining an outpost on the moon, getting logistics capability out there, getting sensors, getting communication out there. And so we see ourselves as becoming a backbone for logistics as well as data across the space enterprise.
Well, you've done something so unique in the world, and your innovation is so novel, and the approach you've taken is so practical, and especially as it relates to the decentralized. I can't I'm just overwhelmed with the sense of that decentralization, both from a security perspective, but also from a just a commercialization, a viability and cost perspective, is really where we all need to go. And we at TMGcore agree wholeheartedly in that concept. Of course, we do it terrestrially at the moment. We would love to participate, in celestially, and when the opportunity presents itself. But in the meantime, congratulations on all your success. And I really greatly appreciate your participation in today. and look forward to hearing more great things coming out of the Virgin Orbit group.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. It's an honor to be, at this forum. So I wish everybody a great set of discussions for the rest of the day.
I'm going to place my order for my own personal satellite soon.
You're on.
Cheers. See you, Dan.
Take care.
Won't we'd all love to have our satellite, huh, JD? Boy, that'd
Yes.
be kind of nice.
Your reception would improve.
Well, I tell you what, JD, again, above and beyond, thank you so much. And Dan Hart, thank you. Even though you're no longer on the screen, we thank you very much for your involvement. That was just great.
Dan is one of the most gracious
He really
C-level
is.
executives that I've ever met. And of course, JD being another one. And I think that's part, of course, the Richard Branson culture, et cetera. Richard was so gracious a year ago to come on with Dan, et cetera. They do everything, and they do everything well. And I think if anyone can solve the space debris problem and be a sort of a space taxi, maybe like Moonraker, remember the old 007 thing?
Right.
They can come by, grab all this stuff, fix it, put it back up. If anyone can to take care of that, I think maybe the Virgin folks can do that.
Boy, wouldn't that be nice, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.